Good morning. Yes, good morning. Uh, you know, Morning times are usually a time, especially before we climb out of bed, a time to engage in reflection and just think about a variety of things. And of course, say our morning prayers before we start the day. Today, I'm just thinking about the difference in how we perceive systemic racism in the US versus Canada, when really there's not that much, there's no difference. I'm not even going to say much or anything that implies there's any different. The validity and the volume of anti Black racism in North America entirely, it's the same. Usually, when Black people are facing law enforcement, I would say 7 times out of 10, they're more than likely to be falsely arrested or criminalized if they're living with mental health concerns, or just their lives taken with no justification at all. This morning, I thought a lot about the history of school shootings on both sides of the North American border. There has never been in the history of school shootings has a Black person been responsible for taking lives senselessly and for no reason. They're all either Asian or Caucasian. None of them are Black. And every time we look at the news clippings after such tragedy unfolds, we always see that the media will rely heavily on mental health concerns, as I would see it as justification, or it's mental health illnesses involved which cause catastrophe. But Black people, if we commit a crime, you know, murder, theft, whatever, robbery, we are deemed as animals, savages, uncontrollable, unable to be rehabilitated. We're called animals, savages. And that's just the reality of it. And all those school shooters I'm about to share with you, just clips of how they're portrayed in the media. Law enforcement didn't take their lives were taken by themselves. But law enforcement or society never saw the signs of these individuals. And certainly, it didn't take a bullet from a law enforcement's weapons to unalive these people. Yet, Black people, because we're seen as animals and a third of a human beings, we are hunted and we are unalive. And things truly need to change. Take a look at this.
20-year-old Adam Lanza, and new details are emerging about him this morning. Authorities are now interviewing his family and his friends, trying to piece together what may have pushed him so far over the edge. 20-year-old Adam Lanza, and new details are emerging about him this morning. Authorities are now interviewing his family and his friends, trying to piece together what may have pushed him so far over the edge. ABC's Brian Ross joins us now with the latest on that part of the story. Brian, any answers seem unsatisfying, as Dan just put it.
They certainly do, Elizabeth. He was armed to the teeth with high-powered weapons that authorities say were legally obtained by someone in his family. And in an hour, Adam Lanza went from obscurity to infamy. Authorities overnight were questioning
So they say he snapped. They didn't deem him as an animal the way that Black individuals are labeled as animals.
Northern Minnesota today on the Red Lake Indian Reserve, 60 miles south of the Canadian border. The Indian community is in shock and in agony. At the moment, the authorities appear to believe that a 16-year-old Chippewa boy who went on a shooting spree acted alone. 9 people died and a dozen were wounded before the boy killed himself. Despite comparisons today to the famous Columbine high school shootings in 1999, this case appears to follow the more common pattern of a lone and troubled killer. ABC's Barbara Pinto reports from Red Lake.
So he was deemed as a loner and troubling, not an animal.
On April 20th.
By the way, his unaliving wasn't caused by police enforcement.
On April 20th, 1999, 2 students walked into their high school in Colorado and unleashed a killing spree that would leave 12 students and 1 teacher dead. But there's more to the story of Columbine than what you might have heard about Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Today, exactly 23 years later, let's explore one of America's most notorious school shootings, from the lead up to the massacre and the aftermath, to get a better picture of what happened on that fateful Tuesday.
So I could tell you the conclusion of this. Claiborne and his partner in crime, they were deemed as severely depressed and validated because they were suffering with mental illness. Almost now we're going to take a look in Canada at school shootings.
This is, I'm told, the worst shooting disaster in Canadian history, 3rd worst in North American history.
December 6, 1989, the day before midterm exams at École Polytechnique in Montreal. Just before 5 p.m., Marc Lepine walked into the engineering school with a semi-automatic rifle. Within 20 minutes, he murdered 14 women.
14 women unalived, you know. The most recent was here in Canada as well.
A murderous rampage has scarred a sleepy Canada town after a deranged teen gunned down 5 students and a teacher at school after first killing their own family. As devastated families and the nation are left reeling from the harrowing shooting, which is among the deadliest in Canada's history, more chilling information continues to emerge about the attacker. Here's everything we know so far. The carnage began around midday on February 10th at the home of 18-year-old Jessie Van Rootselaar in the quiet British Columbia community of...
This was the most recent in the month of February, and of course, mental illness was associated to his death. Now let's look at some of the Black animals that never did a school shooting, never committed such heinous crimes, yet still they were unalived by law enforcement.
It's a painful time for many, including those right here in the GTA who have lost Black family members to police killings, especially those who feel, unlike in Floyd's case, they haven't seen accountability and their loved ones have been forgotten.
He was beautiful. He was kind. He had the biggest heart.
He would tell us when we're down. When we're down, he used to look at us and say, "Yo, it'll be all right. You know, he's got you, man." That's what his words were. I got you. I got you. And I feel like I don't got my son. I don't got him. His son died. I don't got him. And I have to live with him.
Derek Francique and Anne-Marie White's 28-year-old son Jamal was shot while sitting in his car back in January of 2020. It happened while Peel Regional Police were trying to arrest him. Ontario's police watchdog decided not to charge the officers involved.
It's very difficult to see a police officer around me. I wonder if he's going to try to kill me. I have no more trust in the police.
His fears are echoed by Rose Motto.
What are we going to do? I'm just thinking about my kid too. Something happened to my brother.
Her brother, Andrew Loku, who suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, was shot by a Toronto police officer nearly 6 years ago. Police were called to his apartment building because Loku had allegedly threatened a resident with a hammer. The officer who pulled the trigger says he shouted for Loku to drop the hammer, but instead he advanced towards him with the tool raised. No charges were laid.
I lost my brother totally. I don't have. Nobody called me in the Christmas day. Nobody called me in my birthday. I lost everything.
There's been lots of conversation and
he truly was suffering with mental illness, and police intervention left him deceased. Of course, they were never held accountable.
There is growing anger over the actions of police in a suburb of Montreal after officers fatally shot a 37-year-old Black man. It happened in Repentigny on Sunday morning. The victim's mother said she'd called police for help and she hoped officers would take her son, who was in distress and experiencing a mental health crisis, to hospital. The family is demanding justice, blaming racism inside the city's police force for the deadly response.
Instead of getting help, he got 3 bullets. As a mother myself, I have 3 kids. I feel that we are not safe. We want answers. We want answers.
Police say the man was armed and threatened officers. We go now to Olivia O'Malley. She's in Repentigny. Olivia, tell us about the vigil and protest.
She's so right. We are not safe. We're hunted animals in Canada, not just the US.
For the last few years, the Star has been covering the death of Chad Facey. He was a 19-year-old from Brampton who died hours after he was assaulted by an off-duty Toronto police officer. That same officer, Constable Calvin Au, is again at the center of a case involving serious police misconduct. The Star recently learned that a month after Facey's death, Constable Au shot at and injured 2 racialized teens, narrowly missing shooting one of them in the head. One of them was arrested and the judge threw out the charges against him. Here's what happened.
And this story, it's hits home the most for me because this is my friend, Anthony Griffin. He's gone, but truly not forgotten. My childhood friend who never got the chance to grow old with us because of the systemic, deeply rooted racism, anti-Black racism that has filled the streets of Canada with the blood of my people.
19-year-old Anthony Griffith was arrested on St. Jacques Street at around 7 this morning. He was taken to Station 15. He was shot in the back lot.
I remember, I think I was in the basement here, and I heard the radio going, and my mother was trying to get herself ready to go to work and so forth, and she's playing the radio, and she came downstairs and she said, Anthony, what's his last name? Once it clicked, I said, yeah, that's Anthony Griffin. Yeah, because he's just on the radio.
This was an unexpected death of a young man that we knew in the parish. It was a strange kind of atmosphere overall. It was finished and yet it was not finished. His life was cut short unnecessarily and undeservedly.
He was on the news for, I think, probably a year.
We want justice! We want justice!
The community was impactful when they needed to be. They were concerned. They did everything that's possible to go and keep this into the news. The justice, pushing questions to the inquiry as to what happened. It's exactly what a community should be doing for their own. His legacy is probably will always be, that one that we all took interest in because it was so unjustified.
To see the protests and see what was going on, yeah, I think something needed to get done. And, it's unfortunate. That was like 30 years ago. We're still dealing with this stuff right now, which is a little bit better. But Still hard to take.
We were young. We had our whole lives, ahead of us, and we still do. And he could have been whatever he set himself out to be. But I think that he wanted to go anywhere when it dealt with the military or probably even a police officer.
That one hit home. And here's what the excuse that is often used by those Canadians who chose to blind their eyes to the reality of the grotesque existence of anti-Black racism in Canada.
We can straighten out the problems. And thank God that we're different than the United States. And we don't have the systemic, deep roots they have had for years. When I went down to the U.S.
Yes, he's thanking God that Canada doesn't have the systemic racism in comparison to the US, but we just saw footage where how many Black people have been unalived unjustly, not by other criminals in the street, but by law enforcement. And we have the current Premier of Ontario thanking God that the systemic racism isn't as bad as it is in the US. It is bad. There's a lot of Black blood spilled in the street because our people, we are looked at as animals. Our lives are just disregarded. There's no value or respect placed on our lives. And Canadian law enforcement gets away time and time again with unaliving our Black youth, Black people. Our mental health is never used to justify or validate. Our mental health is criminalized, and that's just the reality of it. I'm sorry, Mr. Ford. Perhaps I would say that your systemic racism is deeper than the US because the racism in Canada against Black people, it's operated covertly, sneaky. They try to cover it, but as you could see, it's escalating, and they don't hide it anymore, that to them, we are savaged animals. And as for my Black community, it's time that we stop only reacting when another Black life is gone, We need to always march in the street and demand justice and stop internalizing it on ourselves and our community and stop hating each other and change the trajectory of your anger. We shouldn't be mad at ourselves for being Black. We should be mad at the people who want to punish us and dehumanize us, not because most school shooters are Black or most of the world catastrophes that have gone down in history were caused by Black people, only because of the difference in the shade of our pigmentation, our skin. Is that a reason to hunt us down? Take our lives and say, c'est la vie, that's life, oh well. Whoever pulled the trigger on another Black life is always justified? Nah. It's not only through Black History Month that we need to do things and showcase Black excellence. It should be every single day of the year. And that reaction that we have when things happen, that energy should be maintained every single day. And most of all, we shouldn't see each other as the enemy. because when law enforcement steps in, they don't care if light-skinned Mary or dark-skinned Vanessa, a Black life is a Black life, and to them, Black lives have no value. So we need to change the way we get along with each other and repair the disconnection in Black communities and continue demanding. We ain't begging no more. We should say, yo, justice for us. And I don't mean to run around in the street like the animals that they describe us as. We use the law and we use strategy, but it's never going to be accomplished if we're broken, fragmented. It'll never happen. It'll only happen when we come together. Because together, and I'm tired of saying it, together we are stronger. You don't know. We have 8 more days left of Black History Month. And I want to ask you this question before I officially start my day. Why does it have to take the unaliving of Black life, especially by law enforcement, for us to react when anti-Black racism, unlike what the Premier of Ontario said, thank God it's not as bad in Canada as it is in the US. It shouldn't take more blood spilled in the street caused by law enforcement for us to be angry and demand and fight for justice and the liberation of our people. It's an endeavor that should be continuous until the law changes. And you might say, who cares about the law? Well, let me tell you, Martin Luther King Jr. said, yeah, the law can't stop a man from hating me, but the law could stop a man from lynching me. The law can restrain the heartless. Never forget those words. You have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in. Take good care and bye-bye.